Hey everybody, what's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. The L Word Generation Q is coming back to Showtime for season 2. Kate Menig and Leisha Haley are here with us. What's going on? How are you two doing?
Hi, we're doing great. How are you?
Good to be here.
I'm excellent. I'm very excited the show is coming back. And listen, this show has been critical to a lot of folks. For you two, it's been a couple different chapters of this show. So, Kate, why don't we start off with you? What can people anticipate in season 2 of the series coming August 8th?
Well, let's see. That's a big general question. I think, specifically for character, to maintain some patience, because where she begins and where she ends are in very different places, and it's a very, very slow burn to get there. I think she's also approaching things a bit slower and more deliberately than she normally does, trying to fix some past mistakes and not try to repeat them, which was refreshing to do.
Yeah, I mean, as a general sweep, I think you're going to see a lot of relationships develop that you weren't expecting. You're going to see probably some relationships end that you weren't expecting. So it always has that rich, like, juicy, soapy quality that we all love about this show. And as personally for my character, like, Alice writes a book this season, and it sort of forces her to uncover some things that maybe she's buried for a long time that she didn't really want to deal with, and probably didn't even know she wasn't dealing with. So by writing this book, she starts to do that.
It's incredible to see the journeys the characters go on the show, the journeys that both of you have gone on in your acting careers. I mean, Kate, when you think about this show, just the iteration that it is now, I mean, what is most impactful in terms of just the show itself and what it's done so far?
Well, I mean, it's, the original show was, the first of its kind, and it paved the way. And this show, we're just trying to keep up with everything and trying to stay relevant. And it's wild to think that in 2021 that this began in 2002. And I never would have guessed I would have had this long trajectory with this one and within the series itself.
Yeah, I think the job of this show has changed so much. I mean, we broke down so many barriers at the beginning, and we were the first of its kind as far as, like, representing our community. Like gay characters were so rare in television back then, let alone having a show that was completely focused on a group of queer women in Los Angeles. It was just unheard of. So now it's about all the changes that have happened in our community and culturally, and in those 10 years we were off the air, and coming back and making sure we're representing everyone correctly, and but also what's the subtleties of just showing these characters living their daily lives. In that, we find it to be like a political statement. You don't always have to step on, the soapbox and say it out loud. You can just, like, show people.
Even in 2021, it's still a political statement to just show people in this community living their lives. I mean, that's the crazy thing about this. And you both mentioned it before. I mean, there wasn't a show like this, right? So can you just take me back to the early 2000s when both of you hear about the show and then you actually do the show? I mean, what's the craziest part when you think about just first getting on the air and making the impact?
I thought it was going to be this niche little project that no one was ever going to see. And, I had no idea what I was getting into. So to me, it was just it's another little gay, because I'd been in this, like, indie gay movie, and everything was just very, like, underground at that point. So I thought this was just going to be another one of those. So I think you were as shocked as I was that, like, when it became this mainstream hit that people were, like, grabbing onto, we were all just like, what? Like, what's happening? And then, it changed so many things, or it was at least a part of the change. I'm not going to say it's, responsible for everything, but we were a big part of just, like, getting in everyone's living room every Sunday and going, like, no, we're just like you. Like, the overarching theme of the show is love, and we all have that in common, and we're just doing it with other women.
And personally, the experience of actually making the original show was magical. And because we were in Vancouver together, and we all just synced up perfectly, the entire cast. So on a selfish personal level, we were so happy the show was doing well, because that meant we got to go back and shoot another season and have those experiences together again. So, I think, on a work level, we were, feeding off of each other so much, like the way audience were feeding off the show when it came out so much. It really crossed all fantasy reality.
Well, going off of that point too, you mentioned the 10-year gap between the shows, right? So there's this huge void in your life, and then you get to go back into it. So what was the coolest part of being able to do it again and, a few years down the road?
The fact that we had an opportunity to do it again, because we'd been really trying to figure out how to do this for a while, and reboots didn't exist, and we thought, well, what does a movie look like? That's never going to happen. And thank God reboots became a thing, and we got put on that train. So when Showtime came around and said, yeah, we want to do this, that was just, the thing we've been dying to hear for years.
Well, we thought also we were watching the world change around us. Like, we got marriage rights, and I mean, that's one of many things that happened, but it felt like our duty to come back and show these characters in today's world, like, and not only these characters that people knew already, but like, let's show the next generation, like, everything has changed so much, like, it's important to come back and keep telling these stories.
The other incredible thing too is just that so many people in the LGBTQ plus community feel seen and feel heard with this type of show. And, this is done in the advent of social media, right? Whereas when you first came on the air, social media didn't exist. So can you just share some stories about folks reaching out to you, or just some of the messages that you've gotten over the years about the type of impact the show has made?
Yeah, social media was actually a big part of us realizing people still had a need for this kind of content, because we all assumed when we went off the air in 2009, like, oh, obviously something's gonna like come in its place, and like, you pass the torch, and nothing happened. Nothing like that happened, and we were just like, wait, like, we have to like fill this void. We have to come back, and social media was a big part of us. Like, we would start reading like, oh, I wish the Elder would come back, or I miss these characters, or oh, I wish I could see what they're doing today. And we were like, we were showing Showtime this data also, like, let's do this, and we all did it together. So it's a huge part of it.
Kate, how about for you? Anything in terms of the impact of social media, or just even the connectivity that this show now provides with so many different people?
Yeah, I mean, there's like minute to minute, opinions and feedback on the series, and I said this earlier, that the thing that's a real trip is when a 19-year-old will come up to me or us and say how the show affected their lives, and how they just finished it, or they just started watching it, and you're looking at, and you're doing the math in your head, and you're thinking, you were maybe 2 years old when the show first came out, or when we were shooting the pilot. Now you're 19. I feel old, but
but how great that
it has that effect, because it's a lot of, like you said, a lot has changed since then. I mean, even visually, the show looks so different than the way shows look now, and the fact that 19-year-old is like, no, I'm finding a lot of value in this, and thank you for that, is very profound.
Thematically, it still holds up. I mean, stylistically, our hairdos and our outfits, sure, like, dated, big time, but like, thematically, it's still something a queer kid can watch and feel like they're seeing themselves. And that, to me, or to all of us, is so important, because we grew up in a time where we had no representation on television or in the movies. So you would sort of like project these ideas onto like straight characters, or when, like Cagney and Lacey was a big one for me, because it was like this really intimate female friendship, and it was like something I could like, it just meant something to me, even though they weren't gay. But like, so to see actual gay characters and queer characters and trans characters and non-binary characters, it's like, it means the world, and that as a queer kid.
No question about it. I know there's a bunch of guest stars on season 2. Some are known, some are some surprises down the road. Can we get a story or two about some people that you two worked with that you're really pumped to? Anybody stand out in your minds?
Well, I had the pleasure of working with Donald Faison. He's incredible. He's such a pro. We laugh so much on set. So I work a lot with him. He's my book editor, or Alice's book editor. And we got to work with Rosie O'Donnell, who we all flipped over. that's such an incredibly charismatic, wonderful, smart, funny human being that now we're all like fighting to get storylines with her next season because she's so awesome. We were great. I
had the honor of working with Jamie Clayton, and we had the greatest time together, and I'm very, very proud of the work that we did, and I'm really excited to get it out there and for people to see it, so I don't have to speak in code anymore about it.
It would be nice to not speak in code anymore and for everybody to watch the show. So
exactly.
Leisha, really appreciate the time. Great to meet you. And thanks for all the great work over the years.
Thank you so much.